Oh, y'all. Oh, y'all. Oh, y'all. Oh, y'all. Oh, my goodness. Don't tell Glenn. Do not tell Glenn that I was late. Don't tell him. Can we just keep this between me and you? Is that possible? Like, listen, y'all. Listen, y'all. It is Friday. Man, is it Friday. Man, is it Friday, September the 29th. And we're here and we're alive and the day is going to be awesome. I'm so excited to be here with you. Today's morning quote comes from Christopher Campbell. We had you earlier this week too. Man, you were a quote spitting machine, dude. He says, when opportunity comes, it is too late to prepare. When opportunity comes, it is too late to prepare. Man, this quote hit me in my bones this morning when I read that because I was like, I'm the type of gal who's like, Lord, give me the opportunity. Bless me with the opportunity. Without realizing that, man, time is sometimes the biggest gift because it prepares us to be able to rise up to that opportunity. And man, we don't see the full picture, do we? Listen, my name's Heather Parody, coming to you live. Let me just make sure that we are good on the end with Facebook, that we're good over on Clubhouse. Again, thank you so much for your patience. I'm going to just do a quick little checky check. While I'm doing that, I want you all to comment, say good morning to one another. Holla, everybody can hear me. Woo, y'all, it is time to rise and grind.
Good morning and welcome to Rise and Grind Live. Unlock your full potential with the power of daily motivation, education, inspiration with your host, Glenn Lundy, a husband to one, father to eight, global motivational speaker, and the author of The Morning Five.
I'm Heather Parody, former therapist turned online entrepreneur and wannabe comedian.
Celebrity interviews, transformational information, and a massive community around the #1 morning show in the world. It's 5:30 a.m.
Let's go. Good morning, family. What's going on? Friday, September the 29th, like our friend Lundy likes to say. It's the last time. It's ever going to be September 29th, right? 2023. Thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time, my name is Heather Parody. I am here in place of our incredible fearless leader, Glenn Lundy, who is spending some precious, dear time in Italy. That is right, Italy, with his gorgeous daughter. I cannot get over that this girl is 14 years old because I was a hot mess when I was 14. She is so lovely, and I'm so glad that they were able to spend this time together. He is heading back pretty soon. Everybody in the back say amen, hallelujah, because it's been a techie mess with me. Thank you so much for your patience this week. I've had a blast. I've had a blast being with you. It's so cool to be able to start our mornings together because, again, if you're new here, the reason that we do this is we believe that the way that you start your morning can absolutely change your life. Listen, I have been hyping this all week, hyping this dude that we're about to talk to all week long. I found him a couple of years ago over on the IG, and just been following his journey. And I really love the content. I think it's creative and unique the way that he presents stuff. But I think there's an undertone and a message there that's so profound to our lives, all around tidying. My friends, this is Tyler Moore. Tyler, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. And I was laughing when you were saying the wannabe comedian part. So I'm in stand-up comedy class. I have
No,
one more
really.
class, and then I'm performing the end of October. And let me tell you, so I was talking all summer about like when is the last time you tried something for the first time? And I'm a writer. I'm working on my first book. You know, my agents, they were like, we want it lighthearted, we want it witty. My editor was the same way. And so I was like, how do you learn comedic structure or like writing structure for lighthearted and witty? And I thought, let me just enroll in stand-up comedy class. And it's been the most terrifying thing that I've ever done. But let me tell you, one of the like just most transformative, just of like,
Oh,
because you've got to get
preach.
up there every week with a set, and then the teacher immediately gives critique, and you have to listen to your critique in front of your classmates. And the first time I performed, she said, well, that was a bit one note, and I don't know that I would exactly call that stand up. To which I had to, but then she went into her like very thoughtful critique, and it was one of those moments of like, okay, I can sit here and sort of dwell in this spiral of like, but she's not recognizing how hard it was for me to stand up here and just do it,
Come on.
and recognize that like she really did care about me and she wanted to give me thoughtful feedback, but I needed to hear that. And one of the most powerful things she said was with stand-up comedy, and it really relates to life, is you have to decide if you're someone who can be edited or not. And if you can't be edited,
Ooh.
then this isn't really for you. And she was like, there are people who cannot be edited, who like will stand up there and they don't want the feedback. They don't want somebody to tell them, you know, what worked, what didn't. And I was like, wow, that's a really
Profound.
powerful life sort of message, because if you can't be edited, you've got to like lean into that, because people are giving us feedback about things all the time. And you can really get down in your feelings and feel like your self-worth is just in this like ability for you to automatically please people the first time, or like get that affirmation. But like, 6 weeks in this week, she stopped me after class and she was like, can I talk to you for a second? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I can tell that this has been really hard for you, but you've made a lot of progress. She was like, you've come each week. Your set has gotten better. I think that it's almost there. She was like, but you stuck with it. And I was like, yes, thank you. I did stick with it. And it's been really hard. But it's been great. So I don't know. It's also that quote of like, when was the last time you tried something for the first time? And I feel like, I don't know, the feeling of putting myself out there and trying something and having those butterflies. I don't know. It's that feeling of being alive in some ways, that it's like, I don't know. It's been really cool. So I'll let you know how it goes with, I feel like now got to actually get on that stage at an actual comedy club here in New York City. It's at Gotham Comedy Club, which is a well-known club.
Huge
We have a student
deal.
showcase, hundreds of people in the audience, tickets are selling. And so I'm like, okay, now I've got to actually like do it. And I will. I don't know how it will turn out, but just standing on that stage is success in and of itself, because so many people don't ever start. And so I've at least started. Now I've got to finish.
Come on, man. Do y'all see why I invited this dude on this show? He's our people. There's so many things that you said right there about, are you willing to be edited? Are you willing to get feedback? Do you love it enough that you're willing to get critiqued and get better and not, take that inside of you? Are you trying stuff new, man? Like putting yourself out there. I mean, you have a following of almost like 500,000 followers. Is that right? Like an insane amount of following over on Instagram. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably a comfort zone now, like posting online and doing some of that stuff, because you've been doing it for quite some time. And so willingly to put yourself in a position where you're uncomfortable, man. That's why we're here talking about growth. Listen, there's so much to unpack here with Tyler. I know that you're going to be able to love hearing his story. We're diving into a bunch. We got some videos to share with you. But listen, Tyler, I don't know if I told you about this part of the show. This is really special. It's a very special part of the show. And talk about doing stuff new. I'm not sure if you've ever danced online at 5:30 a.m. at all. But this is the part of the show.
I used to do dancing videos a lot. And I love getting up early, because I always say that the sun is not awake and my children are asleep, which is incredible. So
holla, amen. So y'all, we're gonna put on some jams. Listen. It's time.
Tricky.
It's
never been done before.
Hear that? Listen, it is time. This is the part of the show where we say good morning
When's the last
to
time
you. You say good morning to us and one another. And also share
but I'm
this out.
paid.
I
I
promise
don't even
you,
gotta
I promise
touch
you,
it.
I promise
If
you,
I'm staying quiet,
what you're
then
about
you
to
know
hear
I'm
from
up to
Tyler
something.
and
Yellow
the impact
tail
that
on
he's
the
making
black
through
card,
tidying
same buses.
up the
And I
house
know
and
it
building a
stings when you
powerful
see me out in
community.
public.
Those who are
Always
finding
call me
joy.
cousin. I
It
ain't
is,
not your cousin.
something worth
You should
sharing.
say I
And
didn't
for
care
others
for
who are
dollar
sharing.
signs. Now I
Thank
pay
you for
my
your
mortgage off of
support,
Spotify.
sharing it
Yeah.
out. Listen, I
Asked
can't
it for a
hear
feature, I don't got the time. Plus I heard the song and honestly I'm overqualified. And I got some people in my corner
So we're
that's
gonna
gon'
say
ride for
good
me.
morning,
I got a
Tyler. I
woman
don't know
by
if
my
you have
side
your
who
phone
really
with you, but
died
you
for
can see
me.
all the
I got the
crazy
labels on the line, they want
crazy
the
folks
pie
over on
from
our
me.
Facebook
But I
group.
ain't
We
splitting
got
nothing
Carrie
with them, you ain't
Carter, we got
signing me.
Sonia, we got
Okay,
Tosh
come and
Queen,
get it, I'm
we
running
have
with it. And ain't
Morgan
no looking
to
back,
see you.
tunnel vision to 100 million is
Come on,
sitting
y'all,
in my
Sonia,
lap. Hunger
Felicia,
hitting, I'm done with sitting, I
David,
gotta
gotta
get to
dance,
back. Everything that I
dance.
pitch
Go
is
over
a
to
hit, I don't
Clubhouse.
never slack.
Got a
When that
live room
perfect hair
over
comes
there.
along, you bet big.
Fearless Friday.
And then
We
you
got
take the
Christina,
house.
Mary.
Used to being late to moments, so
music
I
is
so had to plant a seed for them to see they had their eyes closed. Guess I should have focused on the high notes. All of that embellishing probably get you somewhere where you from. City jumping for the moment till you photo with a run. Homies pockets having when they pack you back, you driving funds. ATM to all you people, you can leave with a stunt. Oh, pardon me. Need the moments I gotta breathe. Start a tangent, start advancing. Straight from out my arteries. Risk it off of my main supporters. Keep it beat when I face the shortest.
Listen, Facebook, I love y'all too. I'm having a hard time scrolling over there. But I see you, Vicky, over it. Who else is moving in here? Tyler, anybody?
Overestimated how much ego needed to success. We gon' need it in a check. Pretty interesting. Any blessing came with stretching out and stretching out of space.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is the perfect way to start our day. You were so honored to be here. Now, here's a proper introduction for the man that they call the Tidy Dad.
The parenting series. This one we're introducing you to the Tidy Dad. Whitney, spent some time with him.
Look, all the dads need a little help, right? We got to stick together, and the Tidy Dad is helping us out here. He's a father of 3, a huge following online, helping us with some of the things all parents struggle with, like keeping a clean home and getting the kids out the door on time, all while getting the little ones to pitch in some.
If the laundry is piling up and the toys are scattered everywhere, it might be time to turn to Tidy Dad. Father of 3 Tyler Moore creating the Instagram alter ego to help his 380,000 followers tidy their lives.
Cleaning, tidying, organizing feels really overwhelming for people, but if you put systems into place, it can be a bit more manageable.
Desperate parents turning to Moore for routines and systems to help around the house. One of his tips, get the kids involved.
Laundry is this.
Ooh, y'all. That is Tyler Moore, also known as the Tidy Dad. We have him with us this morning.
Look,
Listen,
they already
it's a
wired
big
the
deal when
advance, but
I
I'm
ask somebody,
paid. I don't
hey,
even
dude,
gotta touch it. If I'm staying quiet, then you know I'm up to something. Yellowtail on the black
Then
card,
we
cause
say,
I'm busted.
hey, it's
And I know it stings when you see me out in public.
live
Always
on
call me
the
cousin.
internet.
I am not your
You were
cousin.
gay for that. You
Used to
told me
say
this
I
morning
didn't
that you
care for
actually
dollar
get up
signs.
early.
Now I
So,
pay my
tell
mortgage
me
off
about
of
your morning
Spotify.
day.
Yeah,
What time
whoa.
you gonna
Asking
get
for a
up?
feature, I don't got the time. Plus I heard the song and honestly I'm overqualified.
Yeah, so I always
And I got some
start-
people in my corner that's gonna ride for me. I got
There
a
we go.
woman by
Heather,
my
I was
side. Really die
mentioned.
for me.
I hear
got the labels
you a
on the
little
line,
bit.
they want
It's
to
sort of
pop
our,
for me.
like,
But I ain't
there
splitting
we
nothing
go.
with them,
Oh.
you ain't signing me. Okay?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Come
I
and
still
get
hear
it, I'm
the-
running with it.
the
Ain't no
morning
looking
jam, but I
back,
couldn't
tunnel
hear you a
vision
little
to 100 million is sitting in my lap. Hunger hitting, I'm done with sitting. I gotta get
Why do
to
you get up in
bed.
the morning?
Everything
Do you
that
get
I
up
pitch
early?
is a hit. I don't ever slack.
Yeah, so I always started getting up early because I am
Used to
a
being late to
teacher.
moments, so
So I
so
teach
had
7th
to
grade
plant a seed for them to see
math,
they had their eyes closed. Guess
all
I should have
day.
focused on the high notes.
I
All
always
of
had
that
these little
embellishing
kids at
probably get you
home.
somewhere
I
where you
felt
from.
like
City jumping
my
for the
day
moment till you
started
photo with a
from
run.
the
Homies
moment that
pockets
they
having when they pat you back,
sort
you
of
driving
woke me
funds.
up. And I
ATM to
felt
all you
like,
people, you can evil with a stunt.
I don't know,
Oh, pardon
starting
me.
my day
Need the
by
moments I gotta
parenting
breathe.
right
Start a
away was
tangent, start
super
advancing.
hard,
Straight
and
from
I
out to
felt
my
like I was
arteries.
really
Risk it off of my
struggling in
main
order to
supporters.
find
Keep it beat when I face the shortest.
like
Leaders all in my game,
alone
I need more
time
danger, might have
or
to make
quiet
order.
time.
Thinking fighting
And
any more
so
spots
part
to
of
these
getting
boys
up
will be
early
none
was
of
about
left
me
undersold.
like taking time back for me. And I felt like if I could, take that early morning time, could I think about a way to start my day in a really positive way? Could I figure out a way to, get back to my family? And so when the girls were really, really little, I was up at 4:30 a.m. Now I pushed it back to around 5, but I feel like I wanted to give myself the first fruits of the day to just calmly start, so that then I was set up to be able to really care for all the people that I needed to throughout the day. Not only my daughters, but also related to my wife, also all of the students at school. And so early mornings were a way for me to really get started.
Beautiful, beautiful. And how does the
Sorry, Heather. I sort of saw your question. I still just hear music. It sort of goes back to our There we go.
I forgot to clear the layer. Y'all love me, don't you?
No,
Don't
I
you
mean,
love me?
what it really was is, I didn't frequent many dance clubs in my 70s, in my 20s. So it almost felt like we were in this great dance club, and you're like, "Tell me about Tidy Dad," and I'm like, "Yeah, let's talk about it and let's dance at the same time." In my old ears at first, I was like, I got this with the first question. And then the second question, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a little bit tired.
Don't you know that's the morning show? We just play some music, everybody's dancing in the background and trying to answer your questions.
No, that's great.
No,
No,
no.
I heard the first part. You were talking a little bit about teacher and
Yeah, I just think, you are a teacher, a dad, you have your family, and then you end up on, and this is just one highlight reel of the whole picture, but, going from just working on your family, tidying up your own home, having your own systems and organization, and then you end up becoming, what the cool kids call an influencer now online, and ending up on Good Morning America. I don't know if y'all got to watch that video. Sorry, y'all, because my issues. But I mean, the following that you've built and the platform that you built, where did that come from? When did that start?
So we started about 5 years ago, and part of it
5 years.
so it's been a 5-year journey. And so that's the big thing. I feel like there were so many people who were like, well, you've just become an overnight success. And I was like, I don't know that 5 years, I would call that an overnight success. And even what is that definition of success? I've always really struggled with that because, for so long, I was on this straight line career trajectory and I was doing everything that I thought everyone wanted me to do. And, from the outside, everyone sort of deemed me as successful. Like, I went to college. We moved to New York City. I got my master's at Columbia University. I got promotions at school. I was in the school administrator role. My wife and I had our first daughter. Then we had our second daughter. We were ticking off all of those boxes. But then I had this moment where it was really a mental health crisis. I was in my early 30s at the time. I felt like life was sort of swirling around me. I wanted more time with my girls. I felt like I had all of these pressures at school. And I was like, what am I actually doing? Which was the first sort of aspect of Tidy Dad, which was like tidying up my professional life. But then, we made the decision that we were going to make New York City our home and that we wanted to make this 750 square foot apartment work for us. And then there were all the questions of, how in the world are you going to do that? How long are you going to live in New York City? And that's a question I joke because I'm like, I don't know if everyone has asked that, but I don't know anywhere else that you live where everyone is always like, so how much longer are you going to live there? Like how long?
Yeah.
How long? Like it's a fascinating question because I think that for some people, life in New York City just feels unsustainable. But yet for our family, it has felt very simple, which is just shocking to some people. And so, 5 years ago, Marie Kondo came out with a show. Marie Kondo's like a tidying, organizing guru. She came out with this show on Netflix that was titled Tidying Up with Marie Kondo, where she was working on her method with people in their homes. And lots of people were fascinated, but all of the Facebook boards in our neighborhood, people were saying, this sounds great, but can you possibly do this with families? And we had just, used her method in our own apartment. And I thought, why don't I just show people what we've done? And it's funny because as a teacher, and this was, 5 years ago, and it shows you how things evolve. I was like, I'm going to do in-person tidying events, and I'm going to teach people how to tidy, and they're going to bring their kids, and I'm going to have all of these activities that we do. And so I promoted it, rented space, and we had 3 people come. And then I looked at a video that I posted on my Instagram page, and I was like, oh my gosh, 40 people saw that video. I was like, that's 38 more people than showed up in my in-person class. I was like, more people could see me if I post videos than if I do the in-person sessions. And so that's why I started posting as Tidy Dad. And then 5 years later, it's sort of honing and crafting the storytelling and the messaging and seeing what do people want or need, while also figuring out how do you present relatable content that, doesn't show perfection, but sort of shows what the everyday sort of struggles are, but also the tips. But yeah, it's been a long journey. And even to Good Morning America, I mean, come on, you're talking about 3, almost 4 years to that point. And I feel like it just takes time, but also when you enjoy what you're doing and believe in your message, the numbers don't really matter because I
Hi,
would,
I'm Tyler. I'm a husband, father of
a
three.
very small account, I would hear from
Right.
people and message. They would ask questions. I would answer questions. And I really enjoyed that back and forth.
Right. Right. And man, I think you killed it, the relatability part, because usually when, and y'all, I mean, listen, I this is, it has to do with tidying and it has to do with simplifying your life, but it also doesn't. Like if you think about the deeper implications here, just like when he was talking about comedy earlier, just the deeper implications of trying something new and being willing to get adjustments in front of people and the ego that goes in with that. What he's talking here about tidying and simplifying, the implications of it go really, really deep, and I think apply to any of the stuff that we do. Because what you just said about, I'm not just going to show the beautiful side and, oh, look how perfect my home is and whatever. Like, you show the gritty and the struggle and the imperfectness, if that's a word, imperfectness of
Yeah.
it all. And it's so freaking relatable. We're gonna watch a couple of your clips real quick, and then I got some questions for you.
Mhm. Time for a game of Tidy Dads. Pretty, but is it practical? This is missing the lid. This, we filled it, never used it. These, I don't know. What are these even used for? This is valuable real estate.
This is just some of the fun, unique stuff, and man, people go absolutely wild for it. Another huge part of your content too is your beautiful family, which you include in so much, and you're always throwing flowers to your gorgeous wife there, Emily. I would just like to hear a little bit about kind of like the behind the scenes stuff of building a brand, but also to managing a family like that and being able to, man, it's hard digital identity for yourself, but also too when you bring your family into it, and it's so vulnerable to share your
Yeah,
home and show your
yeah.
bathroom and like let people into your lives to say whatever they want to say. People are absolutely crazy online sometimes. So what's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really humbling, and I do feel like, over 5 years we've learned. I've had to be, I've had to learn what I do share about and what I don't share about. And one of the things that I learned really early on was that obviously Tidy Dad represents me. It's my real authentic self, and I am perfectly happy to share my own vulnerabilities, my insecurities, the things that I have struggled with, because I feel like when I talk about it and share about it, it actually gives it power, and it sort of chips away at some of the stigmas that I have felt, around sharing my mental health struggles or things that I struggle with as a dad or as a parent. But I always want to paint my wife and daughters in a very positive light because their stories are not mine to tell. And
Oof,
so I
that's so
can
good.
I can talk about my own struggles without saying, one daughter did this, the other daughter did this. I had this huge blow up with my wife. Like, life
Yeah,
happens, life is messy,
yeah.
but it's my platform to share from. And so a lot of what we share as a family is just like, what are the organizational struggles that we're going through? How are we trying to give some of the responsibilities over to our daughters in a very, in a way that's developmentally appropriate? How are we making space for weekend adventures? How are we leaning in, like back to school time, and even it being September 29th?
Yeah.
As a teacher, it is always better when you walk in on that first day of October when you're in a classroom. There's something about September ending. It's not that I wish it away, but like everything starts to feel a little bit better in October because the dust of the school year like starts to settle. And so I feel like I can share all of those aspects of life without delving into, the personalities of each individual person. And, you know, people always want more and more and more. And I've just had to learn, what do I share about and what do I not share about? And some of that is trial and error, you sort of learn. Um, but it's also thinking about, how do you ultimately serve people? Because as we all know, there is a whole host of people walking around this earth that act like they have it all together from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed.
Oh,
And
come
I
on.
don't. And anytime anyone sort of tries to critique that and say, well, you're just acting like you have it all put together. I'm like, well, let me send you a few videos that sort of like, or even my morning stories. Like when I'm up in the morning, I clean one area of our apartment each weekday. And I sort of use the text overlay of my stories to sort of share sort of what's sort of like the mental processing that I'm going through. And I feel like that's important because when I clean, I'm sort of on autopilot because I've been cleaning one area of our house each weekday for the past like 6 years. So when it's bathroom cleaning day, I know what to clean. And our bathroom is tiny. Like I can stand in the middle and not even stretch out my arms and I can touch all 4 walls. Like it's a tiny bathroom that we all share. But when I'm cleaning in the morning, it like gets me up, it gets me going. I'm able to process and think through that swirling, because as parents and anyone, you wake up and your mind is just swirling. And so as I clean, I'm like, okay, let me calm myself. Let me get a little bit present and figure out what is going to be my like plan for the day moving forward.
You seem like you're very into intention. Like
Yeah,
intention.
because for so long, when I was a school administrator, there was nothing. And in the early throes of parenthood, I mean, we're talking about like a newborn and then a 2-year-old. There was so much of my day that was completely out of my control. And so what did I try to do? I tried to just pull from any aspect of life that I could control, which was not a very healthy practice. And so when I made the decision to return back to teaching, some of that was I wanted to feel like, I don't know, I was able to be proactive, that I was able to anticipate and plan and like meet the needs of my students while also protecting my own mental health. And that's not to say that as teachers, I mean, we deal with so much volatility throughout the day. And again, I teach 7th grade math. Like I don't know what's going to really happen, who those students are walking in that day. But I feel like there was so much joy in, rediscovering teaching again and making that sort of like pivot back. And as I, went back to teaching, other space in my life opened up because I wasn't so mentally bogged down and emotionally bogged down. And so with intention, I feel like comes space, and with space comes choice. And with choice comes, in my mind, like joy, because when you have space in your life to choose the things that you really want to be doing, like, I feel like there's so much freedom. And that's where I feel like I've been able to find so much excitement, like as Tidy Dad, to be able to have the space now to creatively write and share and make little videos and, talk on stories to people and build out a website and blog. That's been really, I don't know, it's just been a really joyful part of this like next chapter of life.
You said the key word there, joy. Really, it's about returning to a place of joy and like just full transparency. And we'll talk about cleaning and organizing and tidying, but think about the context of life. So my husband's just like you. Like y'all would be besties, man. Like besties. Like on his birthday, it's like if you want to get him something from a container store. Like he's like pumped about like organization. It's unreal. For me, I'm like a clean person, but it's I get very like overwhelmed with things sometimes, where it's just like it's almost easier to ignore it than to lean into it. And y'all, this is a metaphor for life, where you look at something, you're like, this is a hot ass mess, Yes, I know the right thing to do would be to come in and approach it and, quote, tidy it up and to deal with it and to face it. But sometimes it's easier, too, to push it away and walk away because you just get so overwhelmed by everything that's there. And what you just said about, this is creating space to return back to a place of joy. I know that, but still sometimes, like, my instincts is to push away. So I guess, how do you think about approaching a messy a messy quote room, right, with that intention, and actually follow through without getting overwhelmed? Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, but I feel like there's such parallels to this analogy of like editing your clothing and editing other aspects of your life. Because like the first step always is to just confront the mess, which is like you got to open up the doors and you have to just look in, and you have to allow yourself to sort of feel the overwhelming weight of emotions and thoughts that you have. Then the idea is you've got to clear everything out. Then once you've cleared everything out, there's the process of like, how do you sort into individual categories what you've just found? Then there's power in choosing what are you going to keep, as opposed to approaching it with an orientation of what do you want to get rid of. And I feel like it was the same with, the decision of me returning back to teaching. I mean, I was a school administrator at the same school that I chose to return back to teaching. And there is nothing more humbling than admitting to people that it's not that it was a failure, but admitting to people that like I no longer wanted to supervise teachers in the same way that I had, and that I wanted to fold back into teaching alongside some of the teachers that I had once supervised. So it's like at work, you're like the manager, and then you decide to become an employee, and you have to be an employee again alongside the same people that you had once managed. Like, that's very humbling. But it's an example of what I was talking about of like, I loved my school. I didn't need to throw my school out. Like when I was choosing what to keep, I was like, right now, it feels better to remain at my same school. Why did I do that? Because I can walk to school every day. I knew that someday my daughters were going to be able to go to the same school where I was teaching. I felt like I had really good benefits. I had really good relationships with people. And so sometimes when we're editing or even thinking about big life decisions, there's this feeling of I have to throw everything out and I have to just completely start over. And I feel like that's not the best orientation, that like even with your clothing, like rarely do you go in and say, I'm just throwing every single thing out. But like, if you can name for yourself, like, what aspects of this do I love or do I enjoy, or what do I want to keep? That's just a really helpful orientation that then afterwards you can say, all right, what are some of the small changes that I can make in order to make life just a little bit better or more sustainable, or feel like I have more space? So it's when I often say that the physical process of tidying also relates to the mental and the emotional, but yet it is very low stakes for you to edit the clothing in your closet. Like, it is not, it's not a life or death decision. It's not going to change, the amount of money that you have coming in. It's not going to change where you're living. It's not going to upend your family. But yet you might learn a few things about yourself by identifying that, like, I really want to keep all of my polka dots. And you know what? I'm not into plaid anymore. And really being able to interrogate, like, what is it that you love about those polka dots? And then you're being able to identify what you love about polka dots can then transfer to other higher stakes aspects of your life.
God, that's so good. That's so good. Everybody is in the comments saying that they love that analogy. Young NC Youth, good to have you here this morning. Gail, good to have you too. Yeah, I love that, man. Just because something's not working and your girl is dramatic and all in with stuff, it's like, this is either working or it's not working. And our mind always goes to the negative. Like, first 10 minutes of the show is a hot ass mess, be trying to get everything tech wise. But you know what? This last 20 minutes, this conversation has been absolutely incredible. And we have to, just what you said, be able to pull away what's not working and focus on what is. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful life lesson. Listen, I know we're over time, my friends. Tyler, if you have time for one more question, it's a doozy. It's a doozy, but we got to set the tone. We got to set the tone, y'all. You'll know when my voice gets like this, where we're heading. Where are we heading? We're heading to a mountaintop. Tyler, do you picture in your mind the biggest mountain in the world? I think we had an argument about what it was. Somebody said it was Everest. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. It is. Okay, sweet. I had to ask a teacher. Teacher knows. The math teacher knows. Yeah. So we are the biggest. But actually, it has to be bigger than Everest, y'all. It has to be bigger than Everest because you are standing on top of it, Tyler. And the entire world is around this mountain. Okay, y'all, what happens next? Y'all comment in the Facebook over here. Y'all can comment on Clubhouse, I believe. What is What's happening? These people are gathering. Man, I'm really setting this up. I'm sorry, y'all. I love this question. I really love it. They are chanting. They're going, tidy dad, tidy dad. Wow, Tyler, look at me. Right. They're all there. They're captivated by you, and they're listening to every single word you said. And then the Lord comes in and he's like, listen, thank you, Mary Lynn. I see that. You have 2 minutes. 2 minutes to tell the world one thing. What would it be?
Yeah, I mean that's a huge question.
It's
All right, I'm
only
going to tell you
6:12. You got this, man.
I
Come
know
on.
it's 6:12. All right, so I'm gonna tell you what first came to mind, and I hope this doesn't spark any controversy. But although I do, as Tidy Dad, you know, I was.
Go ahead. I'm
I
good.
have my little cup, and it it has Queen Elizabeth on it. Now, one thing which was sort of like a mantra for her, that we won't get into the royal family, but it's this idea of keep calm and carry on. And I feel like that is just a mantra that I have really had to internalize. And I do feel like there is power sometimes, because as all those people are, as I'm on the mountaintop and everybody is screaming, I feel like so often in life, we feel like chaos is surrounding us. There are so many decisions that we have to make in a day. There are so many different like inputs and outputs and pressures that people put on us. And there are times when we're feeling completely overwhelmed and we feel like we just have to turn into one of those tornadoes that is just spiraling around and getting everything done. And when I'm at my worst, a grounding thing that I've always said to myself is like, just keep calm and carry on. And sometimes the process of keeping calm, of taking a really deep breath and carrying on, is identifying what is the one or two things that would actually make a difference right now. And there was an example yesterday, like I'm a teacher. My school decided that we're going to have this brand new math coach come in. I had never seen this math coach before. I'm off on Wednesdays now because I'm doing a lot of writing. I came in on Thursday. It's the start of the school year. I have a brand new co-teacher. I'm adjusting to 4 days a week as opposed to 5. He came in on my second period. I hadn't had any time to prep that morning. Didn't know he was coming in. He came in and observed the full period. Fine, whatever. That afternoon, yesterday afternoon, he came in and he started the debrief with my co-teacher and I by saying, you know, I can't really decide if I liked what you did or didn't like what you did. First thing, stranger coming in.
Hail
And
no.
I had a decision to make, which was, okay, can I get all in my feelings right now and be really angry and not listen to a thing that this man says? Or can I keep calm and carry on and try to understand why it is that he started the way that he did and pull out some nugget of feedback? But where did that come from? It's where we started. It came from stand-up comedy class. And when she told me the first time that what I did was not stand up, 6 weeks later, I then had a very similar moment, but I put myself back in that position of standing up with that microphone in my hand in front of classmates who had never heard me perform before and say to myself, you've got to suck it up right now. And you've got to just like listen to what he is saying, just like I did with my teacher. And sometimes keeping calm and carrying on means that you have to quiet that pressure that you're feeling in that moment and see, is there something that I can pull out of this moment? Or what do I need to do in order to make a path to move forward? And again, that's not unlike the tech issues at the beginning, because what are you going to do? Say, well, that stunk. Or is it like, that's just a natural thing that sometimes happens? You know?
Come on,
so you
dude.
have to just keep calm and carry on.
Come on. Man, I need a little bit of Tyler in my life every day. Do y'all hear all this? I'm going to steal what Don Sankey always does. This is what I heard today. We started this conversation talking about the willingness to be uncomfortable, the willingness to hear things that might hurt your ego. And then this conversation evolved talking about tidying. And what I'm hearing, Tyler, is, are we willing to sit in the mess sometimes? Calm ourselves, look objectively at it, and figure out what needs to be sorted through, what needs to be removed, and what do we need to embrace. And what a beautiful lesson. I am so grateful for you, not only for being here on this morning show, but also to the broader content. I know we don't talk a lot and stuff, but being able to see how you honor your family and then just support so many families all over who are following you just through your honesty, transparency, your hopeful spirit. It is just so beautiful. And we just absolutely loved having you here today. What did you guys think about Tyler? Isn't he incredible? Tidy Dad. I will make sure that I link up his IG over on Facebook, and I believe somebody can maybe put that over in on Clubhouse, which is running right now if you want to jump in and join the conversation. Tyler, is there anything else that you wanted me to direct folks to?
No, that's great. I mean, I also have a website, which is thetidydad.com. But yeah, thanks
so
for
good. It is like the
thanks.
most professional website. I see a lot of personal branding websites, and wow.
Yeah, this one we were like early on. We were like, if I'm gonna be Tidy Dad, we at least need like a tidy sort. It's like the aesthetics. It's like I can get away with scrappiness. It's funny. Even my like camera today, I have a new camera coming. So if ever you want me to come back, I have a new camera that's being delivered Monday. I have a microphone that's being delivered. It's like I have a level of like scrappiness, that I've just been like, it's been me and like my phone.
Man.
But then there's a level of like, oh, maybe I should get equipment that looks just a little bit better. But
it's a weird balance as creators, figuring out that line between improving and getting better, and then also to showing up in the mess anyway, because
correct.
That's so much of a part of it. It's a beautiful balance. But listen, thank the world of you, dude. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, Thank y'all for being here. Love you so absolutely much. It has just been an absolute joy to be with you here this week. Our leader, our host, is going to be back here on Monday. I am so excited to have him back, and we love you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. But listen. I know I was just playing Connor's music.
It's
too
tricky.
much, y'all, and just making
Never been
the
done
show
before.
crazy.
It's gonna be
He's back
planning
again. That
on a
was already
large
in the
crew.
show.
When was the last time you were in Vegas?
All right, y'all. Love y'all. Bye.
They already wired the advance, but I'm paid, I don't even gotta touch it. If I'm staying quiet, then you know I'm up to something. Yellow tail on the black card, cause I ain't buzzing. And I know it stings when you see me out in public. Always call me cousin, I am not your cousin. Used to say I didn't care for dollar signs, now I pay my mortgage off of Spotify. Yeah, whoa, asking for a feature, I don't got the time. Plus I heard the song and honestly